is the Martha Zoller Show. Lauren Claffey Tomlinson is here with me right now. We're going to talk a little bit about NATO, but poor old President Biden, Lauren. I mean, he can't even read from notes. It's a problem. How are you?
I am good. How are you doing?
Good. So, what have you been doing since the last time we talked?
I don't know.
How's your mom
uh,
doing?
she is great. Family, all family's great. Everyone's doing well, as well as you can right now. And we have young kids, so we're just in the middle of raising those babies, and life's crazy.
Oh, good. I love it when a Georgia girl does well. That's so good. Anyway, Lauren and I cross paths in number of offices. She's been on Help Me Book guests on the show, as well as worked in Capitol Hill offices, but you do communications consulting now. And I want to talk a little bit about NATO because, it's in the kind of view right now because everybody's here because Biden can't travel again. No, I'm not saying, I'm sure it was not. That's not why, but they're here for the 75th anniversary. Just give us an overview of where we are right now with NATO and what the key points are that people need to know.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's the 75th anniversary of NATO, which is why they're having the big summit in Washington, D.C. The reason why they're hosting in Washington is because America continues to be the main security partner for NATO. We are the leaders of the alliance. That goes all the way back to Eisenhower when it was founded, and the UK is our number two for that. So it's a really big moment for the alliance given the Ukraine war. Most interestingly, though, it's getting overshadowed a bit because of President Biden's debate performance and the calls for him to step down. And so there's a lot of anxiety that you hear from the diplomats that are here of, kind of what America's role will be in the future for NATO because they're questioning Biden's mental acuity, his ability to win the election in November, if he'll still be around. And then most importantly, they're having lots of side meetings with Trump administration officials preparing for what they see as a Trump win in November and a future Trump presidency. So there's a lot of domestic politics that are playing into this discussion, but really great meetings are happening amongst the diplomats in which you're seeing more NATO countries committing to their defense, their self-defense, spending more money on their own defense. Committing to support Ukraine and fight Russian aggression, which is a good thing. And also coming up with innovative solutions for what the alliance is going to look like in the future, because, we're not going to have World War II situations again. Space is in play now. AI is in play now. They're really having to up their defense strategies. And so this provides them an opportunity to have those high-level policy discussions.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting, and I wrote a piece for Substack this week called All Governments End in Failure because, eventually they get voted out, right? And we're seeing a lot of that around the world. You're going to see a changing government in France. They've just had a changing government in Great Britain. We're going to have a changing government, I believe, in November. But what I think drives this change is not the people like you and I that follow politics all the time. It is the people that get up off their couch because things aren't going well for them that vote. And that's where sometimes people don't see it coming, the changes. But I think in the case of many of the ones we've seen in the last, I'd say 2 years since Argentina voted in the Libertarian, maybe it was 2 years ago when Italy voted in their new person. There is a big wind of change, and I can understand why an alliance like NATO would be concerned about it.
Yeah, I think you're seeing a lot of worldwide pushback on the globalist nature of, not only the economy, but some of the rules-based order. And I'm careful to say that because, we don't want our American, Western-led, international world-based order to be replaced by Chinese or Russian or Iranian world-based order where it's authoritarian and it's evil, and we don't want that to happen. But I think that there's a lot of movement towards I don't care what's happening necessarily in the country next to me if I'm not safe, secure, and prosperous. So you do see this flip. And, I think that's what we're going to see in November with the U.S. is, what are we doing at home to make sure that costs are down and it's affordable to raise a family and prosper in the United States over necessarily what's going on broadly in the world.
Yeah, and I think that is a feeling that a lot of people have. I mean, I have children from 31 to 41, and uh, the the world my children that are closer to 40 live in is a really different world than the one my daughter who's 31. And what I mean by that is she feels like homeownership is unattainable for her. She feels like costs are so high that she's not going to be able to have the kind of life that her older siblings and her parents have. And she will. She's going to be fine. She understands. I mean, she hasn't been through one of these cycles before. But we're seeing this around the world, aren't we, Lauren?
Yeah, absolutely. And, part of this is because some of those countries that I mentioned, China specifically, haven't been playing by the rules. And so that has really undercut industries across the world. You see this reaction in Europe as well. We talk a lot about it in the U.S. because of the manufacturing and production abilities that have gone away because we have too heavily relied on Chinese manufactured goods that get subsidized by the government. They steal our IP. They then go make cheaper products. Those companies are controlled by the Communist Party. They are subsidized by the government. It's not fair. But you also see this in Europe, and Europe is having a similar reaction, particularly in the automotive industry, because they are getting undercut as well by these Chinese goods. And that means that companies are not able, European companies, German companies in particular, are not able to stay afloat because they're getting undercut in their own markets by these foreign competitors who don't play by these rules, who don't have the same values as our Western allies. And so that is creating a lot of re-examination of, do we put in place tariffs? What are the protective measures that we can do? So some of these conversations that we think are uniquely American are happening across the world in very similar ways because everyone is feeling this pinch from these free trade agreements where people are not playing by the rules.
Getting back to NATO, of course, President Trump really pushed hard to make our NATO partners do more of what we do, which is invest in our own defense. And that's part of what NATO is supposed to do. I am a firm believer in what NATO tries to accomplish. There does seem to be some upheaval about what the role of NATO is supposed to be, though. What are you going to see coming out of this meeting relating to that? Or is everybody just holding their breath till November?
I think everyone's holding their breath until November, but there are some really interesting conversations, I think, happening even amongst our European allies. So with Donald Trump, 4 years ago, we saw him really pushing and complaining that NATO member countries were not pulling their weight, which has been historically defined as like spending at least 2% of your GDP on defense. And now, fast forward a couple of years, they have 23 out of the 31 making that 2% target. And that's not because of Biden. That's because of what Trump had said, and that is because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. All of a sudden, their defense became really real. So you've seen countries now call on their counterparts, those other countries that are not making that target, Canada being one of them, to step up to the plate. So it's not even the Biden administration or America that is needing to say this to them. They are saying it amongst themselves because they realize that they will not be safe and secure unless they can provide for their own defense. America cannot bail them out, especially when America is looking at possible conflict in the Pacific, with China, with North Korea. We're looking at having to spend resources possibly protecting Israel against Iran and possible conflict in the Middle East. We're going to have a very difficult period here in the future as far as our military being stretched thin, and we won't be able to carry our allies in the ways that they maybe thought was possible. And so it's a good thing that they're stepping up the spending of their own defense, that they're buying these military capabilities. And one of the discussions that I think is really important that they're having that probably doesn't get enough attention is they need to build up their own defense manufacturing capabilities. because right now they're relying on purchasing a lot of that from the United States because we produce so much from the defense manufacturing industrial base. They need to be able to do that as well. They need to be able to produce their own ammunition, their own submarines, their own ships. And so that's going to be another area of investment that I think that we'll see more policy discussions around because it'll be the necessary next step.
Well, Lauren Tomlinson, we appreciate you being with us today. If people want to know more about your work, how can they find out?
They can go to claffeycommunications.com, and I'm always happy to visit with folks, or they can find me on Twitter.
Absolutely. Thanks for being with me today. It was great to talk to you.